Just because you've raised money doesn't mean you are a 20, 30, $50 million business. We made that mistake early on. We hired people that were too big. When you spend money too soon, you then go back for more money and you get diluted down much sooner than you really should. I've been around the world 16 and a half times since 2021.
Everybody would say, oh, well, you're in technology, you should be in San Francisco. What was your experience there?
The US is kind of lighthouse. I still think if you win the US, you win the world. They've also learned and mastered the art of fake it till you make it. Your product is irrelevant. It's the outcome that your product derives. No one cares about my features or anything about the product. They simply care about how does it help them.
Hi, and welcome to the CEO of the Salesman Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Whyatt. Today, we're joined by Neil Cresswell from Portainer. G'day, Neil. How are you going?
I'm very good. Very good.
That's good, mate. So, Neil, you're the CEO of Portainer. Portainer is around the world, started in New Zealand, and you've grown that internationally. I'm talking to you from, are you in Arizona at the moment?
Yep, Phoenix.
Phoenix, Arizona. Very good.
So it's currently a heat wave. It's 115 Fahrenheit outside, 45 degrees. And so I'm quite glad to be inside right now.
Oh, wow. 45 degrees. Well, mate, look, I've got lots to talk about. We waffled on in the pre-show, so we're actually going to have to cut this conversation relatively short for the recording. But, mate, just tell me the story of Portainer and how you got, because you've raised capital, you've been traveling in the States for, how long have you been in the States now? Because you've been traveling around before moving there.
We actually raised capital late 2020, and so we went commercial in 2021. Due to COVID at the time, I left New Zealand and flew to America, and then got locked out of the country, out of New Zealand, I should say. So I've been traveling extensively since 2021. I've been around the world 16 and a half times, not including this year, traveling. Yep. So. Most of the time in America, but America and Europe predominantly. But as of today, this is my first day officially resident in the US and now calling Phoenix home.
Oh, very good. Congratulations. And so why did you choose Phoenix?
It was, so as I've traveled, right, and I've been to so many cities and so many states, this is the only city where I felt comfortable.
Right.
I liked Milwaukee. Yeah, Milwaukee was a beautiful place to be. I tried Chicago, tried Houston, tried Dallas, tried LA, tried San Fran, where everyone normally goes. I even tried Orlando, Austin. Tried Austin, tried Atlanta. None of those fitted, I think, with my personal upbringing as a Kiwi. Right, where we're used to being outside and doing. Yep. Activities and adventure stuff, and this place is full of adventure to do. There's mountains everywhere. There's so much to do here.
Fantastic.
So it resonated well there, and I also feel very safe here.
Right. Okay. Very good. And so, because I guess everybody would say, "Oh, well, you're in technology. You should be in San Francisco." So what?
I tried it.
What was your exposure there? What was your experience there?
Yeah, I tried it. I spent 9 months on Alameda. So, which is San Fran, but not San Fran.
Yep.
And fell in love with that place. And honestly, I probably would have stayed on Alameda, except there are tax implications. So California doesn't adhere to the actual tax treaties. So whilst I don't have to pay like federal tax, you still have to pay state taxes in California on your income. So it doesn't really work well. When you're not actually employed by an American company earning American dollars, it's quite difficult when you're doing things from afar. So that didn't work. There in New York are two states that don't actually honor the US tax treaty. So right. It needed to be other states than that.
Okay, very good. So look, lots of our listeners are in the technology space and obviously like the idea of raising capital and using other people's money to grow their business. What are some of the 2 or 3 biggest lessons you learned through going through that process?
Don't scale too soon. Just because you've raised money doesn't mean that you need to start thinking that you are a 20, 30, $50 million business. You have the potential to be a 10, 20, 30, $50 million business, but you will absolutely mess it up if you get too far ahead of yourself. We kind of made that mistake early on. We thought, hey, all of a sudden we've got all this money, we should start behaving like a company that's that big, and we hired people that were too big. We didn't have the processes, we didn't have our ICP down pat, we didn't have all the stuff done, and we spent a lot of money too soon. When you spend money too soon, you then go back for more money, and then you get diluted down much sooner than you really should. So, scale, spend the money at a rate that matches your commercial adoption, not your own aspirations. Is my biggest learning from that.
Got it. Okay. I can imagine that there would be a lot of competition for what you do there and globally. Why the US? Why did how is the US working out for you, and why did you choose the US to grow your business?
The US is still seen as the kind of lighthouse in regards to tech adoption. I still think the adage, if you win the US, you win the world, still rings true. That's not to say that you couldn't become incredibly commercially successful by conquering Asia Pacific or Europe. US seems to have a bit more of an open mind in regards to adoption of new technology, as opposed to tried and trusted vendors. It's a very startup centric culture, and so they don't look down on a company that's 1 year old with 5 users. Whereas oh yeah, it's definitely not. There's far more acceptance of a product. A product's a good product because it's a good product, not because the company's been around for decades and has 1,000 people. Whereas I found the other areas are a lot more conservative. So that's why.
And so in New Zealand, so what do you think are the major differences commercially from working in New Zealand and growing your business there, and then also over the last 4 or 5 years in the US?
Well, New Zealand's a bit different. New Zealand's it's a very lifestyle centric country. You work to have an amazing lifestyle. You don't necessarily work to dominate the world. Whereas
you're playing rugby.
Correct. Whereas Silicon Valley startup culture, which permeates outside of Silicon Valley, is very much around how can I change the world today.
Right.
So there's a lot more access to opportunities when you have an entire culture of people around you who are looking to change the norm.
Yeah. Okay. And what about work culture wise? Right. Because you've got team. How big is your team in the States now?
Still minimal. Until I got here, and we're now looking to start the process to formally establish a company. Right now, everything is done through an employer of record, through an agent. For the staff here, so we have people in country who need to be here, like pre-sales people predominantly. How is the culture? It's definitely different. New Zealand and I guess Australia too. We're pretty black and white. We say it like it is. America, you think is that way. You think they're very direct, outgoing people, and they are direct and outgoing. Except they've also learnt and mastered the art of fake it till you make it. And so you actually need to be really, really strict in your interviewing process to make sure that the people you're talking to actually have genuinely solid background, not just that they can tell a really good story. Like New Zealand, no one would even dare to tell a story beyond their capability, whereas the American society kind of encourages that, and it goes half and half with the actual startup culture. Everyone wants we're going to do it. Let's get together. We're going to do it. So that kind of breeds it. So when you're interviewing, you have to take out your New Zealand way of thinking and think American.
Right. Okay. So you've been in the state. You've been traveling in the US for 4 or 5 years. You're building the business, and now as you're kicking off there. So what are the main lessons that you would talk to somebody about who is looking to open up and grow their business in the US?
I can only talk from what I've found, and from what I've found is people buy, like companies and people in America buy from people who they trust. They build a rapport with, and they build rapport with companies who are making an effort. and so by actually being in America, even if you're not here as a company, by me making the effort to spend considerable time here and visiting some of our larger customers or larger prospects, that really, really helped us to get our traction. Trying to sell a net new company and a net new product, trying to sell that to an established American company via a Zoom call, you're on an absolute hiding to nothing. It's far better to get on a plane, to land in the country, spend a month, book meetings, attend trade shows, go to events, actually get engaged in local society. The ability for me now to take a call with someone, even now if I'm doing a Zoom call with someone in America in a city, and I'm say, oh man, I was in your city last year. This restaurant down the street's amazing. Immediate rapport. Immediate. It's much easier to then start to have a commercial conversation with them, as opposed to, hi, I'm Neil from New Zealand. I've never been to Austin before. I've no idea what's there or what it's like.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. It's interesting. So the face-to-face stuff really does matter over there.
From what I've seen, it really, really does matter. Absolutely.
Okay. And so when you were doing business in Auckland, and I know you've had a long career in the technology space, and you find that more so in America than anywhere else, the whole face-to-face piece?
Absolutely.
Or because your experience is...
It's the same.
Right. Okay.
But for whatever reason, when we start looking to sell internationally, we just think we can just do it via a Zoom call. Whereas in New Zealand, I wouldn't, every single sales call was in person. I'd get in the car and I'd drive, or I'd fly to Wellington, or I'd fly to Christchurch, or I'd do something, and you wouldn't think twice. But getting on a long haul flight and flying 14 hours for a meeting is like absolutely not, because the costs are extortionate. So we try and do as much as we can via remote, but that just doesn't work.
Got it. Okay, cool. So you've had a long career in the technology space. Worked at IBM, those types of places. So what lessons have you taken from those really large organizations that you're going to be implementing as you grow your business there in the States, if any?
So both positive and negative, and
yep.
I'll leave it up to you to determine the lesson from there. But from me, it's always be like when you're selling a product, your product is actually irrelevant, right? Completely irrelevant. It's the solution and the outcome that matters. What are they trying to achieve with your product, and then throughout the sales process, how do you convince them that your product actually meets that objective, delivers the business outcome, resolves the problem or challenge that they're having. Your product is irrelevant. It's the outcome that your product derives. I learned that sales behavior through my career. No one cares about my features or anything about the product whatsoever. They simply care about how does it help them do something that their business needs. And that was one great lesson.
Yeah, fantastic. It's hard for technology founders to hear things like that, to hear that your product, the thing you've been giving birth to for so long and you've cared about and you've nurtured and worried about the position of a particular button or concerned yourself over a particular API.
Yeah.
Well, when it gets to a point, it's sort of, you're absolutely right. It's sort of irrelevant when you get to a point where the customer goes, well, what's the outcome I'm looking for here? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and like I don't like to sell. I like people to buy. And I trust the product that we've built. I trust that it will actually resolve their issues. And so if I can show them how we'll resolve those issues, I shouldn't need to do traditional sales hounding. If I've shown them how, then they'll buy it because they can also see how I solve their problem.
Yeah, fantastic. So speaking of problems, can you talk to me just quickly about what Portainer does and what problems you guys do solve?
So we are some infrastructure software that allows organizations to adopt and use a technology called software containers. It's been popularized with a product called Kubernetes, before that Docker. That is a technology that's quite elitist. You have to have a pretty high degree of IT specialist understanding to be able to embrace it. which means that a very small subset of the overall market can actually adopt it. And so
Right.
we say that's about 20% of all companies can actually adopt this technology. Therefore, 80% are actually unable to approach it in a safe way. Those 80% absolutely need to adopt this technology to remain viable and in business. And so our job is to empower those 80% to gain access to this technology without drowning in complexity and risk and cost.
Got it. And so what problem, we spoke about problems and, the customer and the problems that you solve. So what problems do you specifically solve for those customers?
And again, right, our product is irrelevant. The reason why they need our product is because they need to get some new business applications live. It'll either be a new e-commerce engine, some new point of sale software, warehouse management, ERP, manufacturing quality assurance. They need some new software live, and the vendor of that software is making their software available inside containers. And our customer does not know how to take that application that their vendor's giving them, get it in production and keep it live. Whereas before it might have been in the early days a CD, then a USB, then a file you downloaded and installed, an MSI file that you installed. Now it's a container. How do you get that and run it? So what value do we bring? It's actually allowing them to get software from vendors live, or enabling them to modernize their existing software stack without necessarily needing to become Kubernetes experts overnight.
Got it. Fantastic. So you mentioned CD, and then I started my first tech business in 1999, and we literally would print CDs. We had the stack of CDs, and we had the printer. We could actually print out a label, press that on, and then send that out to customers. So
exactly right.
Now it's
things have changed now. What used to be you send a CD, then all of a sudden it was on a USB stick, then it was downloadable because the internet was fast enough. This whole installable software has gone away now. Now you don't install software, you run it from a container, and it actually creates its own operating environment in a little bubble and runs. It's incredibly dynamic, it's incredibly portable, it's incredibly secure. Everyone who's shipping software knows it's the best way, so therefore everyone's doing it. And unless you know how to operate this stuff, you're in a world of pain, and that's the gap that we close.
Yeah, very cool. Speaking of security, we used to send out a hardware dongle to people with the CD that unless the dongle for people under the age of 50 is a thing you plug into the computer. It was a serial one to start with, and then it was a USB one. So we would code that was hard coded, plug that in, and then when the software ran, it would talk to that. So security and everything's come a long way in 20 something years.
Now there's actually software with internet-based license check-ins, license servers, and license validations. That's all done now. But again, it's all powered by containers. And the reason being, by the way, is that all of the SaaS apps that we all use, including the software that we're here now recording this on, all of this stuff is almost always going to be run by containers in a data center by the SaaS provider. And so that is permeated everywhere. This is the way to deliver like digital services, and so it's now everywhere.
Got it. I was watching Scott Farquhar talk to the National Press Club here in Australia, talking about AI and the evolution of AI. Scott Farquhar from Atlassian, and he was talking about AI and how that's going to impact his business, being obviously the range of products that Atlassian have. So how do you see AI, and how do you envisage that working for your business over the coming next couple of years? So we'll talk about advantages and then particular challenges in a second. So what advantages do you think that your business is going to have with AI, if any?
Well, we see operational advantages internally. Like we're able to use AI trained on our support data, our API documentation to answer a lot of customer support questions. We probably save ourselves 3 support engineers because of the AI bots that we've got trained in our data. Obviously, there are good bots and there are bad bots, and so we happen to have one that's very good for us, and it actually responds incredibly well. I think we've got about like a 90% hit rate. Answer rate from it. I can check the data, but it feels that high. So it's good in that regards. It's great in regarding understanding vast amounts of data. We've been we've been having Portainer in the market now for a number of years. We've got a lot of data points from our customers and prospects. We can ingest that in an AI engine and tell us which things are used, which features are used, which are not used. So yes, a human could do it, but it would be a full-time data engineer doing it. Whereas I can throw all this at AI and have it make sense of this information. So it's a massive benefit internally, and externally, AI is driving a massive uptick in edge compute, because for AI to work, especially vision based, you need an AI engine as close to the source of image capture as humanly possible. That's going to mean ruggedized industrial compute inside tractors, inside shops or restaurants, anywhere you can imagine, right? All of that stuff needs to be maintained and software deployed to it and updated it. And containers are the natural way to actually deploy and manage software on these edge devices, and we help you do that at scale.
Very cool.
We're seeing a huge uptick in commercial interest in edge AI opportunities.
Right. Okay. Interesting. And so, where do you see there's some challenges? Do you foresee any challenges occurring on the horizon for you in the business, or for the industry as a whole?
Still blind trust of AI. So, I mean, we are a human abstraction layer. Our goal is to allow an IT generalist to do IT specialist things, safely and securely. Well, arguably, an AI agent, you could have a conversation with an AI agent, give it free rein on your infrastructure, and it could probably go and do some things for you.
Yes.
Until that stuff is significantly more proven, it's quite dangerous. There are examples now where AI accidentally deleted someone's entire database because it got confused itself and made a mistake. So, but definitely that's a threat to say, well, actually AI could be the conversational intercept between humans and advanced technology, and that's on me to make sure that I bring that capability to my product rather than seeing it as a threat. But it's a threat if I don't. Absolutely.
And how do you see AI playing a role in sales and marketing? Have you explored that at all?
It has made a massive difference to SEO. SEO is all but dead. Now it's AI optimization. You absolutely have to create content specifically written for AI ingest. Question, answer. A human would look at it and be, this is the most boring thing I've ever read. AI ingests it and will use it. I don't Google anymore. I chat. I ask my questions to AI, and the answer it gives me is where I start. Whereas like an old Google search, you'll have like the first page, there's all these results, and you might go click each of them in a separate tab and research them. AI now, I don't. I ask AI to go and review the top 20 competitors in the space and recommend me one based on here's all my needs, and it says go here. So I start there, and I may not go any further than that.
Right.
So AI optimization and content creation, so that you are actually represented in AI correctly, is really, really, really important.
Yeah, very cool. Great. I've been playing with some vibe coding with some various software, so to try to just play and get familiar with it, because I think that it's important for almost everybody to wrap their head around actually what's coming if you want to be relevant in the next 10 years anyway. And so the challenge that I saw with what I'm doing is that you give it a set of instructions, it does a thing, and then you ask for an edit, and what it does, it seems to almost forget what it's done previously and wants to do the new thing.
Correct.
So
Completely
losing a database, it absolutely is. I lost a database of it sort of disconnected the database, and then I decided, remember the database? Oh, yeah, sorry about that. So it's apologizing for getting it wrong, and a developer wouldn't normally do that. So, and what I found is in doing that, I think it's attractive, but commercializing software that people have vibe coded or have just using natural language would be really challenging. Certainly scale and having to put into language where it could sit in containers like with you. I think there's still a reasonable gap between the front end, so it can produce front end or interesting looking screens and logic, but then back end really difficult processing. I think there will be some real challenges there coming up where people try to deploy stuff that they've
security, right? We are commercial software. We are used in some incredibly big name brands, many defense agencies, power utility companies. I can't be taking a risk. I need to be sure that I've got incredible levels of security in my code, security and protections. We get CVEs. People raise against us where there's an
CVE,
critical vulnerability and exploit, I think it is.
right?
It's basically a critical software defect that causes either a backdoor, an escalation of privilege, or whatever else. Right there, it's bad news when you get them, and so you have to address them quickly. And so there's a lot of time, money, and effort goes into ensuring we have safe and secure code. Vibe coding, nah. So I expect to see quite a few CVEs coming out now. If I'm going to use the software to vibe code products, I'm going to use inside my own network, probably okay. But if I'm making something commercially available externally, selling it, oh man, yeah, it scares me. Yeah,
that'd be a real problem. Yeah, so I think that the headline of that software development companies are in trouble. Well, it's much like anything really. You go, well, on the surface that might be the headline, but when you get beneath it, businesses start commercially rolling it out, holding credit card and holding personal details and holding all this data for a company. If you've got something other than solid, rock solid code and containers managing it, you've got real problems, right?
Absolutely. I've seen a few of the vibe coded products in our space, and I actually passed it on to my devs to look at it, and they were like, they sent me back the F11 dev tools dump from a browser and said, look, here's the API call. It's actually sending passwords in plain text through API. There's no way that even the most junior developer would do that. And they're like, it's crazy. And so it's like, okay, cool. So but on the surface, it looks cool, right? It's got username, password. The password is all hashed out, so you don't see it. You hit submit.
Yep.
It's setting it by plain text. Cool. Let's not do that, shall we?
Done.
Yeah.
And so what's the future for the business for Portainer? So over the course of the next 5 years, I think you said that you've got is it a 5-year horizon you're going to be in the States, or is it really? So what's that look like for you?
Well, it's a 5-year visa, and I shouldn't necessarily be here 5 years. So basically, the 5-year visa is to get the company established. So get an actual US company established and get staff and have it operating as a discrete unit. It can then employ me if it sees value. But yeah, so my time horizon is probably 2 years to get all of that done, and then stay on if I can, because I quite like climbing around the mountains of Phoenix. So it's fun.
Yeah, good on you. Very good. So when it comes to your leadership and what are the leadership lessons that you're going to be implementing in your business? So a lot of our listeners are trying to grow a technology business, and they're really great technologists. And so how do you think about leadership when it comes to growing your team?
I'm an accidental CEO. I'm also a technologist. I'm a techie who had a cool product that became popular, and I then had to commercialize it. And through that process, became the CEO. So I am learning as fast as I can. I make mistakes every single day, and I learn from those mistakes. So I try not to make them again. Believe it or not, I make mistakes 2 or 3 times. Before I finally get through my thick skull. That's a bad thing to do. Don't do that anymore. I try to be as open and transparent with my team as possible. When I'm very confident about something, I'll let them know that. When I'm not so confident, I'll let them know that. I have strong opinions. I subscribe to the founder-led management style. There's 2 types of company leadership style. The more traditional MBA style that everyone learns, and then there's founder-led. Go Google founder-led, or in fact AI. Ask founder-led business models, which is still a higher degree of micromanagement. I'm still involved in product decisions and engineering discussions and sales and marketing calls and everything else like that. Whereas a more traditional leader would hire a bunch of people, delegate, and step back. So I'm still very intimately involved in the business. Some people find that useful, some people find that annoying.
Yeah, got it. And so why is that an advantage to you, do you think?
I remain very, very connected both to the inner workings of the business and also to our market. So we're able to get very, very fast feedback on things that we ideas we come up with, changes in the product that we make. Because I still like to attend a lot of sales calls. I still visit a lot of customers. I attend our trade shows. So I get direct market feedback as well as being able to talk on the inside, and I can act as a translation layer across anywhere in the company between what's actually happening out there in our real world and what we want to try and have happen through sales and marketing tactics, campaigns, product features or capabilities. So I can try and translate that. So I'm not at all removed. Sitting in an office, I'm very much coalface on both sides.
Yeah, cool. Okay. And so where do you think that there will be at what point do you think that you'll be the bottleneck in that, or do you think you'll always stay in that founder-led model?
I don't like to reference Elon Musk just because at times he's polarizing, but he maintains relatively close levels of control at massive scale. So it's possible.
That's huge.
I don't plan to be sleeping under boardroom tables on a factory floor anytime soon. So I definitely don't. I definitely want to get to a point where I can delegate. That I think will probably be in a year or so's time when we have the ability to kind of, where there are enough people in the business who can still act as that proxy. So we don't lose that cohesion between customer and the engine room.
Okay. And so as a leader being founder led and so where do you see as your highest value activity in the business now and over the course of the next couple of years, how will that evolve?
I still think the highest value is actually customer facing, because I am still a techie and I spent 20 years as a consultant. I can still listen to customer problems and in my head play Rubik's Cube and figure out of everything I know, how can I actually solve that person's problem with all of the actual technologies that I happen to have been exposed to throughout my career. And so being customer facing means I can actually help them navigate the changes that they're going through as they go container first or approach this new digital transformation. So I can do that. So I help articulate how we can add value. Because of that, I get trusted very, very quickly. And so the customers are a lot more open with me, and then I can feed that openness back to sales, marketing, engineering to say, look, really, even though the customer may say, here are their pain points, here are the actual pain points that they don't want to disclose openly because they're embarrassed. But if we can actually show how we address these pain points, we're really scratching that itch. And same thing with engineering.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, look, Neil, it's been wonderful to talk to you. It's always exciting for somebody from this side of the world to see you, to see somebody else going over to the big game and playing in the big league, so to speak. Is there anything that so knowing that our listeners are in the technology space, looking to grow their business, is there anything any other wisdom you'd like to share with us today?
If you plan to sell outside of your home market, get out of your home market as fast as possible. If I had built Portainer off the back of the needs and experiences of New Zealand, we would have failed already. It's a very, very big world. The way that people approach the adoption of technology, the way that people approach buying software, buying anything really, it's quite different country by country. And so get into the markets that you want to sell into as soon as possible. Learn their unique cultural uniquenesses, and make sure that you have sales approaches, marketing approaches that actually resonate. So wherever possible, just ensure everything that you say and do represents and respects in the local markets.
Got it. So get out from behind Zoom, so to speak.
Get out from behind Zoom, get out from the comfort of your home office, get out into the field, get out speaking to people, get out to trade shows, do good old-fashioned hard work.
Perfect. Well, on that note, on that bombshell, I'll leave it with you. Thank you so much for your time today, Neil. Enjoy your 45 degrees Celsius day. That sounds, I'm sure you're glad you're inside.
Absolutely.
And probably not going to enjoy your air conditioning bill. But mate, look, really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
I appreciate it.